Why did you exit, and what was the revenues when you exited?
Well, the revenue would be over $1 billion because we had overtaken Adidas and we had overtaken Nike. We had become number one.
Wow. Let me ask you a question. Why were you number one? When you look back at this, it was very competitive. Why were you number one?
So first of all, thank you so much for making the time. And it was a pleasure to meet you at the Global Net Worth Conference in New York last time. As I'm a bridge and an intercultural consultant, I would like to know, what is your advice how to successfully work with China?
China. China is probably not one of my expertise, but working with China, I guess you'll get a lot of help from, local help. I'm sure you get local help from around and about. But with China, I think that it all depends. We did more buying from China than selling to China, but I think we'd grown quite a bit, and we had a big team by the time we actually got into China. But we used to use China for manufacturing. And that was okay because we got our prices. And with China, and I don't know, are you talking about selling into China or buying from?
It could be both ways. Any way of doing business with China.
It could be both ways. Well, I think the Chinese are very happy to have you buy from them. I think that's there's no question with that. Depending on the size of company you are, I found the biggest hurdle in my early days in buying from the Far East was you needed to put a letter of credit in. A letter of credit means you need to have the money. We could normally get a credit line in many places, but we couldn't get a credit line. Eventually, we did get a credit line, but we had to go through an agency to get our credit line. So depending on what you want. And working with China is okay. And again, if you're actually selling into China, you would probably sell into China through, again, by having some sort of system. We used to have letters of credit, and which is working through your bank. So a lot of it. Why in particular do you want to go to China?
Well, I'm based in China for already 6 years. So I'm kind of bridging and bringing people together from the West, because we may have a lot of prejudices about China. The news doesn't always reflect what really is the truth about China. So that's why there's people like me who are based in China and bringing the right partners together, which, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you for your next, another question. Now, you are a global leader and you've built up an empire. What is the best advice you have ever received?
The best advice I've received? Difficult to know, because you receive a lot of advice whilst you're growing. At every stage, do welcome advice. The best advice, I think that the best advice is really knowing your product, absolutely knowing what you want. And people will tell you, this. Just know what you're looking for. Don't go with half a question, half a story, but go and be fully conversant with your product. So when you ask somebody, can you make this? Tell them everything. Exactly. With us, when we started going to factories and they would produce a shoe for us, and we'd say, well, that's okay, but then, in those very, very early days, we found the production didn't really match the sample. So that made us change our thinking. And what happened then is we had a sample made, and we would keep one shoe and we would leave the other shoe with the factory. So, and that would be signed. We have a signed piece of paper within, we would put it into a bag, and this was sealed. So we had a sealed sample, and that we could compare against any production that came out. And if the production didn't come up to the standard, we had a legitimate piece of product that we could compare, and that we could say, look, this is not right. So that gave us a standard. That allowed us to get the right standards every time that we went for production. The the big thing that we learned about the Far East and China in particular is that they were very good on time. They were excellent products. The only thing that we found that they were different from, we'll say, a Western way of looking at business is that as far as they were concerned, there were no secrets. And I think that at Reebok we made these mistakes, and that is that you've got to plan well ahead. And we would probably order a run of product. Maybe if we're going down where we are now, we're in November, December. Maybe we would have asked for 5 million in 1 month and then 6 million in another. And if we changed our minds and said no, we want this and we want something different, we would probably find that the factory, being a factory and knowing how a factory works, they'd still make what you ordered to begin with. And then if you're not careful, you could have products going out of their back door. So I think you've got to be careful that when you're working with China, that you understand that method of working.
Yeah.
And if you understand their method of working, it helps you. So as a marketing company, without the knowledge of manufacturing, placing orders like that, you've got to be aware that you place those orders, they're going to make them.
Yeah. Which now you just mentioned marketing company, and as a shoemaker, you always need to be creative, come up with new designs. Where does your muse come from? Your inspiration for something new?
Well, I think that in those very early days, I created the name and the the silhouette, which we still use today, and this is fine. But then you need to build a team of designers, a team of people who can actually take your product and move it forward. And you don't need a great deal. We look at Nike, and I'll say they invented air. What they did is they put it into a bag, and they had something that they could call original. There's nothing original about air. We all know that air is good for cushioning. And then if you want to look at Reebok, Reebok came up with the pump. So these, and they're just excellent marketing ideas that makes that difference. So when you're thinking about a design, it's really making sure you have a team, you have people, you look around, and people will come to you. People even come to me today. They come to us with new ideas. And
Amazing.
Yeah, and that's good because people come with ideas, and of course, the idea is just an idea until somebody can actually put it into a production, and that way it can make a difference, and you can make money. So, it building your team, building a lot of people. You can't have all the ideas yourself.
Yeah.
You need other people.
All about the people here. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not sure if I understood this correctly. At the Global Net Worth Conference, I took down as a note that you basically increased, I think it was the revenues from 9 to 900 million in 4 years. I don't know, did I hear this correctly? And if so, no matter what the number was, what was the secret of yours on how you made that amazing achievement in only 4 years?
Well, the numbers are correct. And in 2 words, white space. That's the secret. Okay, what is white space? Well, we've always looked for white space because when we were a small company up against larger companies in those days, Adidas, we had to find space where they were not, where we could make a difference, where we could be. And that was usually local places, local athletics. When we found those white spaces to allow us to grow big enough to get our way into America, which was a bigger market. Once we're in a bigger market, we were scaling, and so we were scaling. And then came our best piece of white space, aerobics.
Oh.
We were willing to pivot from athletics to aerobics and women. And we just, well, one of our guys down there in Los Angeles, he saw this at a very early stage. And Angel Martinez, his name, his wife was going to these classes, and she was coming back home. Just full of it. Other friends, they were just loving it. And Arnold just asked, "What are you doing?" And she said, "We're doing aerobics." And Arnold again, "What's aerobics? What's aerobics?" Anyway, to cut a story short, he went down. He saw what was going on. Thought, "We'll make a shoe." The idea, and this is marketing again, make a shoe specifically for women, on a woman's last, in women's sizes. So it was directed at women because aerobics, that was women. So, and this was the first shoe ever made specifically, so first sports shoe for women, first ever made. And once we got the shoe onto the market, and Jane Fonda went out and bought a pair of Reeboks for her videos, it just exploded. All the women wanted a pair of high tops or freestyles. They just wanted it, and it was great. We had problems because we made it in glove leather, and we shouldn't have done. But that was the beginning of soft leather in sports footwear. So it created something different, and it just, I'd say, from 9 million to 900 million. And our biggest problem was finding the product. We didn't have to look for orders. People were just ordering the product way beyond our ability to supply. So that was our biggest challenge, was how to supply. And that's when we went to the Far East. And that's when and it was South Korea in those days. We moved not from South Korea, we've increased from South Korea to Vietnam, China, all the Asian countries. But finding the production was the big one. Luckily we got there, and we retained the identity of being the aerobics company.
Now, one last question for today. I've already got a lot of inspiration, great advice. I saw you and your wife. You were successful on stage speaking, and you also spoke about your amazing book that I recommend everybody to read. But your wife was there with you. You looked so happy, and you stayed even hours later to interact with us. And I'm wondering, how can people be happy in their lives and successful? What's your philosophy, or do you have some good advice? Because it seems like you kind of have it all: happiness and a good private life and success in your work.
Well, what we do is when we turn up at an event and we say, yes, we're going to come, we stay. We know that it's not just a matter of saying hello, blah, 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 and running. No, we like to meet the people. And we enjoy that so much. I had so much fun at that photograph session. It was hilarious. I think,
oh my gosh.
about 5 seconds a person for 300 people. It was amazing. So we don't do that. And, it's tough sometimes doing a lot of traveling, but I think having somebody to travel with, that makes the difference. For 20 years in Reebok, I traveled on my own because for whatever reasons. And when I stepped back from doing a daily job at Reebok, I said, I'm not going to do that. I need to travel together. I need to have fun. And you have 10 times more fun, two of you, than you can do on your own. And so our philosophy is, we keep meeting people, we'll keep traveling, and we'll keep enjoying it. So we do that, and we love it, and we're ready for our next trip, which will come in about 2 weeks' time. We're off to Dubai. Then we're off to Bangkok, and Julie's daughter lives in Bangkok, so we're spending Christmas there.
That's beautiful. Well, China's just around the corner. Feel free to come over. So after New York, they say Shanghai is similar to New York, in case you two want to come step by.
Right, so I guess you're in Shanghai then.
Exactly. Yeah. Nowadays, it's very easy to come back to China to get a visa. The COVID times are over. The fun is back in the city.
Great. Well, that's good to know. And I'm sure Judah will put that on our list so that when we get out there, who knows? We've been to China in the early days, very early days. Yeah. And Julie was a bit nervous about going into China at that point. Certainly as a blonde, they consider, who's this? You know, a Western woman, but we're going back now 30 years maybe. So
yeah, I would be surprised.